Two Russian warships arrive in Syria in a show of support. Meanwhile, Arab League monitors say the government of President Bashar al-Assad had only partly implemented a pledge to stop the repression, free detainees and withdraw troops from cities during a 10-month uprising.
Syrian TV broadcasts images of two Russian warships in the Syrian port of Tartus. On board, the warship's captains meet with Syria's Minister of Defense. On Saturday, the vessels pulled into the port, one of Russia's few outposts abroad. They are expected to stay for several days in an apparent show of continued support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad during a 10-month uprising against his rule. The visit comes as protests and violence continue. Amateur video purports to show people crowding around Arab League monitors who wear colored vests. One woman holds a photograph of her son, who she cries is dead. Another video, also obtained online, shows protesters lining the streets of El Ghadfa on Monday. Obtained from a social media website, the videos cannot be independently verified. A team of 165 Arab League monitors arrived in Syria 2 weeks ago to verify whether Assad's government is implementing a plan to withdraw troops, release prisoners, and stop repression. Arab League officials have said the Syrian government has only partly implemented their pledge. Syrian officials say they are fighting subversives armed from abroad, not a popular revolt. In Damascus, Arab League monitors attend a Christian mass where pro-Assad Syrians mourn those killed during the uprising. At a rally outside the church, people raise pictures of Assad and cheer. The Arab League appears divided over whether to refer Syria to the United Nations, a step which in Libya led to foreign military intervention that helped rebels topple Muammar Gaddafi. Russia joined China in blocking passage of a UN Security Council resolution to condemn Assad's government for its crackdown on the opposition.
The Iranian Revolutionary Guard tests new weapons and military tactics near the Afghanistan border. The country's relations with the West remain strained by recent threats to close the Strait of Hormuz.
The Iranian Revolutionary Guard calls it the Martyrs of Unity exercise, a series of military drills held just 60 kilometers from Iran's border with Afghanistan. Members of the Guard's ground forces tested new weapons, equipment, and modern warfare tactics. Commander Mohammad Pakpour told Iranian television that the exercises were aimed at boosting security along the borders. The drills come just days after naval exercises in the Gulf intensified already tense relations with the West. Relations remain strained by threats that Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz, the outlet for most oil from the Middle East.
Cargo ship Tycoon's mooring broke its line on Monday, causing it to smash against the seawall of Christmas Island, Australia in heavy seas. The 7 network reported that the crew of 15 Thai nationals were all rescued before the ship began to break up. But officials have said that oil has spilled into the Pacific Ocean.
There has been a release of oil. Some of it has impacted on the beaches, and there has been a release of some of the fertilizer as well.
Up to 130 tons of diesel and oil and up to 260 tons of phosphate powder were on the ship when it hit land. The Australian Maritime Authority has yet to assess how much of Tycoon's cargo has leaked into the ocean.
The rear part of a cargo ship grounded and broken in two on a reef off the New Zealand coast has sunk. The wreck is one of the country's worst environmental disasters on record.
The rear section of the nearly 50,000-ton Liberian-flagged Rena moved to the edge of the reef, about 12 miles off Tauranga on the east coast of New Zealand, where it has been wedged since early October. The Rena broke in two on Sunday after being pounded by waves of up to 20 feet, spewing oil and more than 100 containers into the sea. The Rena's captain and navigation officer, both Philippine nationals, have been charged with operating a vessel in a dangerous manner and releasing toxic substances. They also face charges of attempting to pervert justice by allegedly altering documents after the grounding.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, January 11th, 2012, and I'm Darko. Alright, so I'm just going to start here. Clipper passengers spend night at sea as 70-mile-per-hour winds, gales, batter island. Hundreds of passengers spent a miserable night at sea after the Commodore Clipper was forced to ride out last night's storm in a huge wave or huge waves off Jersey's east coast. I don't know if you guys remember this. This is from the 29th. Rogue wave damages Sea Shepherd vessel. This is the anti-whaling vessel. So some pretty rough waters out there right now. Second carrier arrives. CVN 70 Carl Vinson joins the CVN 74 Stennis in Arabian Sea off the Straits of Hormuz. The U.S. is ready to proceed with its joint Israeli war game operation titled Simply Enough, the Great Prophet. Now that they have two carriers there. The Endangered waters, the three top hotspots, potential conflict in the Geo-Energy era. And it says here, the narrow stretch of water separating Iran from Oman and the UAE, the Strait of Hormuz. The second one up is the South China Sea, which I'll get into later. Then the Caspian Sea Basin is an inland body of water bordered by Russia, Iran, and three former republics of the USSR, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan. In the immediate area as well are the former Soviet lands of Armenia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. This is interesting. They say here that that they're actually trying to assert their autonomy from Moscow and establish independent ties with the United States, the European Union, Iran, Turkey, and increasingly China. So a lot of color revolutions going on there. That's what's happening in Syria right now. It says here, Zbigniew Brzezinksi, 8 geopolitically endangered species that will suffer from America's decline. And, well, he would know because, well, you know, these are the movers and shakers. They're the ones that help cause this, and so it's nice to be able to predict things when you actually create the future. Number 1 is Georgia. Number 2 is Taiwan. 3 South Korea. 4 Belarus. 6 Afghanistan. 7 Pakistan. 8 Israel and the greater Middle East. Then this is big news right now. Israeli source assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist, joint Mossad-MEK operation. An Iranian news agency reports that a 4th Iranian nuclear scientist has been assassinated. It was a professor specializing in the petroleum engineering at a technical university. It says he was killed by a bomb attached to the side of his car by 2 men on a motorcycle. It says here, my own confidential Israeli source confirms today's murder was the work of the Mossad and MEK, as have been a number of previous operations that are reported here. So you can go in there and check that out. Links will be posted in YouTube's video description. IAEA leaked secret info to Iran enemy. A senior lawmaker says assassination, or the assassination of Iranian scientists proves that the confidential information provided to the international bodies by Iran has been leaked to the country's enemies. It says here that the agency must be trusted by nations because nations and governments give their documents to the agency. How the enemies of the Islamic, Republican or establishment have obtained the names and information of our country's elite is a question we would like to know the answer to, he added. So it says here the U.S. denies role in Iranian scientist's death. The U.S. has denied any role in Wednesday's killing of the Iranian nuclear scientist, the latest in a series of events that has exacerbated tensions with Iran. Then next up, Israeli Mossad recruiting Iranian exiles in Iraq's Kurdish region, says report. It's funny though. It's not funny, but the Kurdish right now are being declared a terrorist group. And I just saw something the other day where it was saying that in the Dutch were actually filing a lawsuit or something with these program that was, I guess, Kurdish, saying that it was a terrorist, promoting terrorist activity. So I guess they're in the radar as well. Next up, strong quake jolts northern Iran. Relatively powerful 5.1 magnitude earthquake has rocked the central and eastern parts of Iran's northern province. Is it a heart job? Who knows? U.S. citizen, and that's the beauty of it. That's the point of it. In the government white papers on the weather, it actually says there that's the beauty of weather weapons, is that no one could actually trace back who actually did it. So that's a new type of warfare. U.S. citizen sentenced to death in Iran. So it's a U.S. citizen, right? It says here a former U.S. military translator of Iranian origin convicted of spying for the CIA by an Iranian court. So again, this is amid tensions. And then we have U.S. expels Venezuela diplomat after cyber attack allegations. Says here she was ordered on Sunday to leave the U.S. after allegations surfaced that she discussed possible cyber attacks on U.S. soil. Says here it's in accordance with Article 23 of the Vienna Convention, and the article does not require the expelling state to explain its decision. So apparently Kirchner never had thyroid cancer, the Argentine president, despite the initial diagnosis that resulted in the removal of her thyroid. So it says here that the diagnosis has been modified. Said here that the surgical treatment undertaken is sufficient and the administration of radioactive iodine is no longer necessary. I remember about Venezuela Chavez talking about the cancer conspiracy. Someone wrote in the comment board, wait a minute, what happened to the Venezuela President Hugo Chavez's theory of CIA's cancer conspiracy to Latin American leaders? U.S. overthrew Iran's democracy 1953 to 1979, armed Iraq to invade 1980 to 1988, now lies for more war. Next up, Kenyan troops kill 60 al-Shabaab fighters in Somalia. And that's what the Kenyan army says. Next up, we have U.S. terror drone. Kenya fighters jet strike Somalia. Says at least 30 people have been killed after a U.S. assassination drone launched an aerial attack on the southern Somalia near the Indian Ocean coast as Kenya fighter aircraft pounded another location in the south, Press TV report. On October 28th, the U.S. admitted to flying the terror aircraft from a base in Ethiopia. Next up, we have the majority of U.S. foreign aid is now military aid. Remember, I covered this December 29th, the top 10 recipients of U.S. foreign aid, and you can go in there and check that out. But the point of this is to tie this together. South Sudan, remember this? The South Sudanese MPs from the Moral community have blamed the army and UN peacekeepers for allowing armed men from the Nur ethnic group to attack the Pibor town on Saturday. Then in the Sudan again, the UNDP not allowed to work in Al-Maghlad. Security authorities have prevented the United Nations Development Program from entering the city. And it goes on and says that the UN vehicles have also reportedly been detained by military intelligence for 3 days as they were returning. January 4th, alarming malnutrition in Sudanese conflicts, says UN official. This came out after I covered this article. The majority of U.S. foreign aid is now military. So this is another shuffle. And what does it result in? Obama to send U.S. troops to South Sudan. Troops sent over recent outbreaks of violence. Back to Somalia, 18 Kenyan soldiers killed in Somalia. And then to Pakistan, U.S. fires first drone in Pakistan in 6 weeks, 4 dead. It says American officials say there had been no promise by Washington to avoid drone operations since a deadly November 26 strike. I think it killed like hundreds along the Afghan border, but said it was part of an effort to tamp down tensions with Pakistan, seen by many U.S. officials as a key to negotiate peace in Afghanistan. Militants in Pakistan execute 15 Pakistani troops. And then some changes here in government. Pakistani Prime Minister fires Defense Secretary. Then we have Zardari has not offered to resign, said spokesman, after early media reports quoted Zardari as saying that he was ready to give up his post. Next up, blow to Barack Obama's Chief of Staff, Bill Daley, resigns. It says here he's resigned after a troubled year in one of the most powerful roles in American politics. Then a Marine Corps probe after a video emerges showing American troops urinating on dead Afghan bodies. And it's supposed to be the Taliban. Protesters mark Guantanamo prison's 10th anniversary. And then we have this. Taliban storm Afghan government building, killing at least 10. Remember, they opened up an office, and there was all this peace with the Taliban. But I covered before, there's actually a split in the group. And I think there was actually the pro-West ones that were getting paid a lot of money to have, quote, peace. And then there's the other ones, the traditionalists, that want their sovereignty, whatever, for whatever reasons. And they're the ones that are causing this. But I thought about this. This is an interesting time right now because Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all them, they're all infighting. Libya, they're all infighting. They're not really, I mean, Libya wasn't really a military threat, but still. They're all divided and conquered right now. Now, the New World Order, whatever, they can focus on the Pacific, which is what they're doing. So, Syrian President Assad blames foreign conspiracies for crisis. French journalists killed in Syria. So, it's the first time in a long time that they actually let Western journalists in the country. Then the Syrian government allows him to come in, then he gets killed, and then they say, oh, well, it's up to Syrian authorities to ensure the security. They're trying to get a regime change. They're causing destabilization to do this. U.S. to expand military presence in Asia. U.S. troops in Japan to be mobilized for North Korea provocations. Chinese regime condemns United States Asia-focused military policy. Then Philippines protests new China intrusion in disputed water. Then we have U.S. turns to drones to counter China. Spy school opens up in Azerbaijan, we just talked about. Courses to train young people in army reconnaissance. Speaking of regime changes, why Washington wants finito with Putin. Chances of central New York drone flights improve. This is GGN. Thank you.